The epic story of Lucifer, the god who defied the heavens. What if I told you there was once a god so beautiful, so radiant, that even the stars envied his light? A being crafted from perfection itself, who looked upon the heavens and decided it wasn't enough. This is the story of the brightest among the divine, the god who rebelled against the throne of eternity, and in doing so, became its greatest enemy. They called him Lucifer, the morning star. But his story wasn't about light, it was about pride. Every myth has a rebel. In Greek tales, it was Prometheus, who defied Zeus to bring fire to mankind. But in the celestial order, in the realm beyond mortal sight, the rebellion came from something far greater. Lucifer wasn't born evil. He was the highest of the divine, a being of unmatched brilliance, beauty, and reason. Yet in his perfection, something poisonous grew, pride. And pride, in the language of gods, is rebellion. So tonight we're diving deep into the oldest story of divine defiance, how heaven's brightest light fell into eternal darkness, and why the echo of that fall still shapes every myth of good and evil. In the beginning, before time, before stars, before mortals ever whispered prayers, there was only order. The heavens weren't chaotic, they were symphonies of light and song, each being a note in a perfect harmony. And at the center of that divine choir stood one voice, the most radiant of them all. Lucifer. He wasn't just another being, he was the first among the divine hosts, a creation meant to mirror beauty itself. Some said his light was so pure that even creation bent around him. When he moved, the heavens shimmered. When he spoke, silence bowed. But as with every legend, perfection carries its curse. Lucifer began to see himself not as part of the music, but as the composer. He looked at the throne of the Creator, the eternal flame that all light came from, and thought, why not me? If beauty and wisdom flowed through his veins, why should he kneel? Why should anyone kneel? And in that question began the first shadow in heaven. The other divine beings noticed it first, the slight pause before Lucifer bowed, the quiet arrogance behind his praise. They whispered in the halls of light that something had changed. But no one dared confront him. He was the morning star, radiant, loved, and second only to the Creator himself. Lucifer began gathering others, not through threats but through charm. He spoke of freedom, of self-determination, of gods not bound by one will. He said, we are the light, why should light obey? Some were persuaded, some were frightened. But all listened. And like a spark catching dry wood, his words ignited something ancient, ambition. Soon, 1/3 of the divine host swore allegiance to him, believing they would usher in a new dawn, one not ruled by the throne of eternity. He stood before them, wings spread wide like silver fire, and declared, we will ascend beyond the stars, we will build a new heaven not of obedience but of will. It was the first declaration of rebellion in the history of creation. And it would change everything. In the myths of mortals, wars are fought with swords and fire. But this was a war of light itself, power against power, song against song. Heaven trembled. The very foundations of creation shook under the clash of beings too bright for mortal eyes to imagine. Lucifer, the bringer of dawn, became the bringer of ruin. His light turned crimson, his beauty hardened into defiance. He rose above the clouds of glory and cried out, I will not serve. And in that cry, creation itself froze. For the first time, the divine order broke. Love turned to rebellion, harmony turned to chaos. Heaven, perfect and pure, was torn apart. But rebellion always meets consequence. The throne did not speak in rage, but in sorrow. The Creator, whose voice built the stars, whispered only one command. Let there be judgment. And the heavens obeyed. The rebellion fell like a storm of fire. Lucifer's armies, once radiant, were shattered. Each one cast down from the firmament like burning comets, their wings torn, their names erased. At the center of the fall was Lucifer himself. He plummeted beyond the clouds, beyond the stars, through realms of silence and flame, until he struck the void. And there, for the first time, the brightest being in existence knew what darkness was. In that fall, something inside him broke, but it didn't die. Lucifer rose from the ashes, his wings now blackened, his halo consumed by shadow. He looked around the wasteland of his own making and laughed. A cold, hollow sound that echoed through eternity. "If I cannot rule in heaven," he said, "then I will reign in the shadows." And with those words he transformed. The light-bearer became the adversary. The morning star became the serpent of old. Lucifer became the devil. And from his fall, the concept of evil was born, not as an opposite of good, but as its reflection. Because what is light without shadow to define it? Lucifer's story became the eternal warning that even perfection can corrupt, that pride can twist beauty into horror. He was not destroyed because destruction would have ended the lesson. He was cast down so his existence would remind every being, divine or mortal, what happens when pride dares to challenge creation itself. From that void, Lucifer built his own realm, a kingdom forged in defiance. No light, no warmth, no harmony, only will. His throne was carved from flame, his crown from hatred. And his power came not from creation, but from corruption. He whispered to mortals through dreams. He twisted truth into temptation, love into obsession, faith into fanaticism. He didn't need to destroy, only to convince. Because every mortal who chose pride over humility became his reflection. And so the war he began in heaven never truly ended. It continued not with armies of angels, but inside every human heart. Every time pride whispers, "You deserve more, you should be worshipped," Lucifer smiles. Because that's his victory, not in battles, but in belief. Lucifer's tale isn't just a story of evil. It's the story of light, twisted by its own reflection. Of beauty that thought it was greater than the source. And of rebellion that mistook pride for freedom. Every ancient culture told a version of this myth. The Greeks had Icarus, who flew too close to the sun. The Babylonians spoke of gods who defied the heavens and were cast into the abyss. And in every version, the message is the same. Those who rise too high without humility always fall. Lucifer's legend became the mirror for all of them. The ultimate example of what happens when a god believes he can replace the divine. And maybe in the end, that's why his story still haunts us. Because deep down, every human understands that same hunger, the desire to be more, to be seen, to be powerful. Lucifer just took it one step too far. He wasn't destroyed because he couldn't be. He was immortal not in light, but in lesson. So the next time you look at the night sky and see a falling star, remember, according to the oldest stories, that's not just a streak of light. It's a reminder that once the brightest being in creation tried to become greater than the divine, and fell forever trying. Watch the next story where another god challenged fate itself and paid the same price.